Superman is the best of us all. He's strong, he's smart, and he's got a good heart nestled between two perfectly chiseled pecs, which makes him a prime target for the Predator. So yeah, I went ahead and saw the new Superman in theaters on opening night, and what can I say? It was great. But some of the stuff Supers was doing in that movie had me thinking about another character I just can't seem to get off my mind. Predator. Predator has fought many heroes, including Wolverine, Black Panther, and even Batman. So today I ask a question no one would bother asking because it's too stupid. Could the Predator kill Superman? Well, the topic is a bit more complicated than that. First up, let's talk about Predator. The Predator species, called Yautja, are a species of alien hunters made up of several races, all of whom seem to share some specific cultural traits. Namely, the Yautja are trophy hunters who seek the toughest fights for the most glory. What they bring to that fight varies from hunter to hunter, but I'll go over some of the most common tools as well as some of my personal favorites. One of the most common tools a Predator utilizes is a plasma caster, a shoulder-mounted cannon that fires concentrated blasts of plasma hot enough to instantly cauterize a wound and strong enough to dismember limbs. Almost every Yautja also comes equipped with a gauntlet with two functions, the first being two extendable blades which cut through other metals with ease, and the second being a bomb that creates a sort of plasma explosion. Predator often cause these detonations themselves in a last-ditch attempt to kill their prey at a cost to their own lives. This gauntlet is also sometimes seen as the device the Yautja use to activate their stealth technology, where they become invisible, save for a slight shimmer around their forms. The last truly consistent weapon Yautja tend to carry are biomasks, although their function varies from film to film. These biomasks usually have a targeting array that works in tandem with a plasma caster, or in the feral predator's case, the bolt caster. They also enable the predator to see thermal vision, as their own vision is just like totally red, like slight blurry shapes in red. Now onto my favorite weapons. The combi stick is an extendable spear and the signature weapon of the city hunter predator. It's fast, efficient, and has a lot of range given it's meant to be thrown. The smart disc is also from Predator 2 and is a throwable frisbee of death that's also a boomerang. Its blade seems to either be rotating so fast you can't perceive it, or it's vibrating at such a frequency that it cuts through flesh. In any case, it's a severely underrated Predator weapon, but it gets completely outdone in my opinion by this beauty, which I know has a canon name, but to which I'll call it the Death Star, because it looks like a star made of death. And before we go on, there's just two more weapons I want to mention, both of which originate from the latest Predator, Killer of Killers, the Pulse Cannon and the Scissor Spear. The Pulse Cannon is a prosthetic used by the Viking Predator, which requires them to pull back and then launch out a massive burst of concussive force, able to wreck a building. The second standout weapon from this film in my eyes is the Scissor Spear, used by the Ninja Predator. This spear's blade splits in two, allowing it to rip prey open after pinning them to a wall. And while I won't be giving these to our hypothetical Kryptonian hunter, I did just want to point them out because they're two of my new favorites. In terms of biology, Predator are pretty consistent with two exceptions, both of which equally suck. A normal predator is roughly the size of a human, if not a foot or so taller than one governor of California. One trait Yautja seem to possess but is sometimes credited to their biomasks is the ability to mimic their prey, listening in on human conversations and repeating their words in a way not unlike parrots or ravens. But all of that aside, what I think makes the Yautja species so interesting is their sense of honor and their behavior. The Yautja center their culture around strength and being able to defeat outrageous opponents. Famously, in the Alien vs. Predator timeline, which may likely end up being the default Predator timeline, the Yautja specifically harvest xenomorphs for the purpose of giving their juvenile warriors a rite of passage into adulthood. But it's not just about killing an opponent, it's also about trophy collecting. In the Predator vs. Wolverine comic, the main predator of that series is named Copperhead, and while at first his rivalry with Wolverine is based on Wolverine being a strong opponent, it becomes a matter of honor and glory for Copperhead when he discovers Wolverine's adamantium skeleton. But now let's move on to everyone's favorite punk rocker, yes he is, Superman. I'm sure you don't need an exact recounting of Superman's origin, so I'll give the cliff notes. Superman was born on the planet Krypton under the name Kal-El. However, upon Krypton's imminent destruction, Kal-El was saved by his parents and sent to Earth in a rocket. He'd land on the homestead of the Kent family, where he would grow up under the name Clark Kent. However, Earth and Krypton have different suns, one yellow and one red. Under the light and radiation of a red sun, a Kryptonian is pretty much no different than a human. However, under the yellow sun of Earth, Clark Kent has numerous superpowers, including flight, super speed, super strength, heat vision, frost breath, and enhanced senses like hearing, smelling, and even sight, allowing him to see through solid metal. He's considered one of DC's strongest characters ever and has been the leader of several superhero teams in the past, most notably and famously the Justice League. So naturally, anyone who goes against Superman has to be strong, willing, and able. Enter Lex Luthor, Metallo, Cyborg Superman, Mr. Mxyzptlk, Ultraman, Mongol, Darkseid, etc. But what puts Superman in an actually defeatable status is his weaknesses. Most famously, Superman is weak to a substance called kryptonite, which is most commonly shown as a rock or a crystal that originates from the decimated remains of his home planet. Kryptonite's actual effect changes depending on the iteration of Superman. Sometimes it drains his powers, sometimes it causes physical harm to him, sometimes it does both. Another thing about kryptonite that often changes is his effectiveness. Sometimes simply holding a rock near Superman is enough to put him on the ground, but in other cases it has to be touching him. It can be shaped into statues, bullets, etc., making it a very versatile element for his villains to have on hand. Another weakness Superman has is magic. This usually puts him at a disadvantage when fighting someone like Black Adam or Shazam. And to top it all off, despite the sun being the source of his power, it's also possible for his cells to become overloaded with solar radiation, which will slowly kill him. This is actually the premise of one of the most famous runs on Superman ever, Grant Morrison's All-Star Superman. But probably his most understated weakness, in my opinion, is this. Superman's got enemies, and a lot of them. So many, in fact, that they're oftentimes willing to team up solely to kill him. And if his roster was limited to characters like Toyman or Livewire, he could probably handle it easily. But no, a lot of Superman's villains are just as absurdly strong as him. Doomsday famously killed the Man of Steel in 1993 for the Death of Superman arc. But even beyond him, we're looking at truly threatening villains like Brainiac, Lobo, Bizarro, General Zod, and Parasite. And if you ask me, Predator kind of feels at home among these characters. But before I can definitely say how this battle plays out, we need to set up why the Man of Steel and the Kryptonian Hunter are going head to head. It's Alien vs. Predator all over again. But instead of xenomorph queens, it's the last son of Krypton. Metropolis 2025. The day is once again saved thanks to Superman, who was able to stop the powerful villain Metallo, with the people of his fair city praising him and once again thanking that they have such a powerful hero protecting their homes. However, someone else was watching the fight. Stooped atop the LexCorp skyscraper, a blooded Yautja watches, cloaked and biding his time. He had been on the loose in Metropolis for some time now, moving through organized crime bosses since they tended to put up the most fight. The night before, he had killed and made trophies out of members of the Invisible Mafia. His ship had been hidden underground in an abandoned subway tunnel, where he kept his prizes. But this hero who the Yautja had witnessed was unlike anything they had seen before. He flew. He was fast and incredibly strong. He would make for the most difficult opponent our Predator had faced yet. A lot of Predator writers like to give specific names to their Yautja to distinguish them from one another. So for this video, I'm calling our Predator Titan. Because who else to fight a god than a Titan? And Titan has quite the arsenal to take a Kryptonian on. Along with a plasma caster, which most Yautja carry, he also has a Death Star, a smart disc, and a combi stick. He hopes to keep the fight at a range at first, wanting to weaken his prey before he goes in for the kill. But I hear you saying, none of these weapons would work against Superman. His skin could block bullets. And yeah, you'd be right, if they were made from real metal. Predator 2 actually establishes that the metal comprising most Yautja gear, as we can tell, is something not recognized by the periodic table.
Astonishing. This material doesn't correspond to anything on the periodic table.
Which should theoretically be impossible, but movies are dumb. The point I want to make is that everything we've seen go against these things has lost. If it's meant to stab, it stabs. If it's meant to cut, it cuts. I wouldn't be surprised if this fiction of metal is meant to be stronger than any earthly metal. Regardless, it's not actually how strong the metal is that is going to give Titan an advantage. It's the fact that his metal is special. Other fictional metals, such as promethium, a metal used by Deathstroke, have been shown to actually be able to injure Superman. This is because they have unique properties that bypass Superman's natural resistance. And I mean, if this Predator metal can't be identified on a periodic table, I'd reckon that that's a pretty unique property. But comparing Predator metal to promethium doesn't give us the greatest example. We need to see a fictional metal that Superman can be hurt by versus Predator metal. And we have an example of just that. Adamantium. And since Predator has faced Wolverine, whose entire skeleton is adamantium, we just need to see how he fares against him. And although the Predator never directly cuts through adamantium itself, its armor was actually able to withstand Wolverine's claws, albeit with some scratch marks. He also did actually cut through Wolverine's bone claws, which are weaker, but still it's a really cool feat of strength I wanted to bring up. So we can determine that Predator metal is likely on the same tier as adamantium, which means it's likely in the same tier of metals that can hurt or potentially even kill Superman. Night draws close. Clark Kent has finished wrapping up his working day at the Daily Planet and he's prepared to go home to his wife Lois Lane. But he can't shake a feeling he's had since he fought Livewire. When he was looking out at the crowd, there was a noise he heard among the cheering. some sort of trilling or clicking, but no matter where he looked, he couldn't find the source. It was like an animal was stalking him. Even now, he hears that faint sound somewhere in the city, and it puts him on edge. But that night, Clark goes home. He has dinner with Lois and lies down with an open ear and a belief that something out there is watching him. Because of course, something is. Titan had been keeping track of him this whole time, observing him in preparation for his hunt. The day comes and once again Clark is juggling being Superman and being a reporter, this time facing off against Parasite, a villain who drains energy. After a swift battle and victory, Superman returns to his daily life. However, he's being followed. As he turns an alley to change back into his day clothes, the air becomes thick with anticipation. Superman just barely notices down the alley a faint shimmer in the light, and while he looks down this alley, something comes flying at him, a Predator compy stick. However, Superman is able to catch it, because on top of his super speed, his reflexes are also incredibly enhanced. For the sake of this video, and to give Titan a point in his corner, we will say that catching the combi stick does actually cut Superman's palm, showing him whoever this threat is, they pose a real danger. That soft clicking he had heard came from the enemy, who remains cloaked, unseen, predatory. In these moments of hesitation, Clark realizes that the spear was just an opener, a test, and he realizes this just in time as he hears the hum of something electrical buzz on. 3 faint streams of light emerge from the darkness over his head. It's a targeting system. He ducks just out of the way as it fires, destroying the wall behind him, but leaving him unscathed. Titan picked a good time to attack after Superman had just finished a fight with an opponent as tough as Parasite. He was already somewhat drained, and this was an opportunity any Yautja worth their honor would take. Clark realizes that this hunter is only after him, so it would be best to take this fight away from civilians. He flies up into the air and looks around the alley from above, trying to locate his attacker. Nothing. He hears the clicking sound, but it's growing more faint. Whoever had just attacked him made their retreat. It wasn't a fight in the first place. It was a test of his reflexes, of his skill, of what he would do. Titan is collecting information on Superman to figure out the most opportune time to attack him, to beat him, to kill him. And while Titan is gearing up for the real round 1, we're going to look at how Superman typically fights. Normally, Superman is all about preserving life, keeping civvies out of harm's way and making sure at all times he's the center of the villain's attention. Because of this, a lot of his more prominent villains like Luthor use his selflessness to their advantage. But when it comes to actually fighting an enemy, we again see that preservation of life shine through. Does Superman kill? Yes, but not super often. If he can take down a threat without killing them, he will, no matter how evil or destructive they may be. Certain exceptions do exist, most notably Doomsday, but they're few and far between. In fact though, Superman killing Doomsday isn't much of an issue anyway, because Doomsday always comes back with a new resistance to whatever killed him last time. Unfortunately for Titan, Yautja only get one life and they tend to lose them fairly easily, at least by super powerful alien standards. Now, I did consider giving Superman a helping hand here, since he has a friend who's fought a Predator not once, but 3 times between the publication years of 1993 and 1998. Batman. I really considered having Supes call Bats up and having him pull a "I've seen this one before," but I figured it was more natural for storytelling purposes to keep the Dark Knight out of this, especially since by default, it's not Superman at a disadvantage here. The next day, Superman scans Metropolis for the enemy that attacked him, hoping that in combination with his telescopic vision and X-ray vision, he'll be able to find where this hunter, the Predator, is hiding. Now is also a time to talk about Superman's X-ray vision. His X-ray vision seems to function like an actual X-ray does, to a point where it's actually stopped or at the least inhibited by lead. And the reason lead inhibits X-rays in the real world is because of its high atomic number. To put in basic terms, lead is so atomically dense that it absorbs and scatters the photons emitted by an X-ray. And for this video, we're going to assume that Predator metal works in the same way, especially since it doesn't match anything on the periodic table, which may indicate an incredibly high atomic density. So Superman is unable to locate the Predator, aside from every so often hearing the clicking and trilling of a hunter lying in wait. But someone has found Titan. They found him lurking about on rooftops or breaking into butcher shops to feed. The man who controls Metropolis, Lex Luthor. And while Superman looks for his masked attacker, Luthor is sitting back calmly, watching Titan on his surveillance cameras scattered around the city. Whatever this creature is, it may be the key in finally defeating Superman. While Titan is feeding, Lex sends in a squadron of guards armed with electric cattle prods. Titan sees them coming. The fight is over in moments as LexCorp mercenaries are stabbed, dismembered, flayed. One lucky grunt is able to deliver a shot to Titan's backside and the Yautja falls unconscious. Everything is black until a light comes on above Titan. He has been stripped of his weapons, all but his mask, and looking down on him from a high window was a man who spoke with a booming voice. I don't know who you are. I don't know what you are. I don't know if you can understand what I'm saying at all right now, but I know an ally when I see one. You want to kill Superman, and I want him dead. I don't see any reason why we shouldn't help one another. A box emerges from the floor with the Luthor Corps symbol etched into it, and it opens. Titan's blade gauntlet rises from it. He quickly straps it back on and triggers it, but his blades are different. They're green, crystalline. I took the time to enhance your weaponry. You'll find your blade gauntlet among other weapons now draped in a thin layer of kryptonite. It's his one true weakness. A stab in the heart from that weapon will kill him in an instant. Now, my friend, I trust you'll be on your merry way. The room fills with gas and Titan falls unconscious once more. He wakes up on a rooftop. Night has fallen. His weapons laid around him, ready for him to put them to use. Whoever that man was, he would die, but that would have to wait for now. He's lost track of his prey. Titan decides the best way to find Superman again is to lie in wait, and so he sneaks into his apartment. He lingers in Superman's home and remains motionless, lying in wait. The door opens. It's his wife. Lois walks in and feels the hairs on the back of her neck stand up. Something doesn't feel right about this. Titan wouldn't hurt her, she's unarmed and not his prey, but she whispers something under her breath, something that Titan can't make out. In a moment, suddenly his prey appears, damn near taking the door off its hinges as he barrels in for Lois's aid. He demands Titan show himself now, but Titan couldn't do that. He emerges from the shadows, cloaked and keeping his footsteps light, but with a quick unsheathing of his gauntlet blade, it's over. In the blink of an eye, he feels nothing but pain. There was no more ground beneath his feet. He was falling. He had been punched in the chest, tossed through the window, and was now in a free fall. But something catches his foot. A hand. As he dangles above the streets below, Titan looks up and his cloak dissipates. His prey had found him. In a moment where honor came before life, Titan slashes at Clark's hand. His wrist blade found its mark, and as Titan began to fall again, he noticed 2 digits falling beside him. He cut off 2 of his fingers. But as he fell, Superman started to fall too. The kryptonite lining the wrist blades had interrupted his ability to fly, and as they both started falling, Titan reached out. He grabbed the Kryptonian and flipped him over, using his body as a shield. When they hit the pavement below, Superman was in a daze, weakened by his enemy's weaponry and down 2 fingers. Titan stood up and roared over his victory. This round goes to the Predator. But it's not over. Not while they're both breathing. I spent a lot of time talking about Superman's weakness, but I think now's a good time to bring up, in my opinion, what the Yautja's greatest weakness is. Ego. They are an entire species of egotists. They laud their strength and their ability to hunt, and oftentimes believe victory is so assured they let their anger and rage take over. The feral predator, the city hunter, and the jungle hunter all fit this description and are all defeated by their own hubris. And in this moment where Titan lauds over his victory, he's suddenly grabbed by the ankle. With barely a muscle pulled, Superman flings him into a wall, disorienting the predator and nearly knocking him unconscious. Superman looks around, still weary from the kryptonite-laced blade he was cut with, and the fact that his left hand is lacking in numbers. When Titan gets back to his feet, Superman knows it's a game of keep away. Where'd you get the new material? Had a feeling you'd have used kryptonite on me already if you had it. Courtesy of Luthor, I suppose. Titan simply responds by unveiling his Death Star. Each blade of it has now been wrapped in kryptonite, and as it whizzes by, it takes all the quick thinking and reflexes in the world for Superman to dodge it. But that weapon wasn't to finish the job. It was to close distance, and as Superman looks back at Titan, it's too late. Buried in his stomach, 2 long blades. In front of him, a masked monster. But Clark's not out. Although his vision is getting blurry and the life is leaving his body, he focuses on another power. He looks down at the blades in his stomach, or rather, the arm they're attached to. His eyes begin to glow red. They heat up, and they fire. In an instant, red lasers cut through Titan's flesh and remove his arm. The Kryptonian hunter reels back in pain, grasping at the dismembered end of his arm. Superman does his best to pull the arm out of his stomach, clutching his maimed hand to the open wound. If one of them was going to go, it would be now. Titan marches forward with his combi stick in hand, now sporting kryptonite-tipped blades. As he draws closer, Superman lies in wait. He pretends to have given up, with his head towards the ground. Titan marches over, clicking and growling under his biomask. At the last moment, as he raises his combi stick, Superman looks up with his eyes glowing red. Gotcha. In an instant, it's over. Titan laid on the street, 2 holes steamed across his chest. The Predator has fallen, but Clark is pale, weak. He feels a fever take him and he blacks out. When he opens his eyes, he's surrounded. A group of Yautja, decorated with their trophies, surround him. Weakly, he looks up, expecting them to kill him. Instead, one of them simply lays a weapon on his chest, a flintlock pistol from a time long ago. The others hoist Titan's body onto a stretcher and march away, cloaking and vanishing in front of Clark. So, could the Predator kill Superman? Well, maybe. If I'm right, it's totally possible. But is it realistic? Probably not. I brought up so much about Superman's villains because I knew I wanted to get Luthor involved, and I brought up so much about the Predator's weaponry because I kind of wanted it to go the way of Predator 2, a movie which seriously enhanced the Yautja weaponry compared to the first one. But most of all, I wanted this to be fun, and I wanted an excuse to talk about Superman and Predator. In the end, I think it's important that you remember these fights are not meant to be taken seriously, and similar to what Stan Lee said a long time ago, it usually just comes down to whoever's writing these things. The Predator could kill Superman if written by someone who wanted the Predator to win, or Superman could win if written by someone who wanted Superman to win. That doesn't make these videos any less fun to make or any less interesting to talk about, but it's something to keep in mind. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, let me know in the comments and be sure to subscribe. I'm Demuted. Peace.